floating shipless oceans. I did all my best to smile till your singing eyes and fingers drew me laughing to your eyes, and you sang, said to me, let me unfold you. Here I am, here I am, waiting to hold you. Did I dream? You dreamed about me. Were you here when I was for sale? Now my foolish boat is leaning, broken off all your rocks. For you sing, touch me not, come back tomorrow. Oh my heart shines from the Well, I'm as puzzled as a newborn child. I'm as riddled as the tide. Should I stand with the breakers, or should I lie with death, my bride? Hear me sing, swim to me. Swim to me, let me unfold you. Here I am, waiting to hold you.
Okay, the reason why I'm talking to you today is not because I think that I feel particularly great or witty or even that I have a long time to talk to you, but just that I figure it'll be like one of those movies like, 35 Up or something.
Yeah.
British documentary in which you'll have people from all these different all these different ages talking, and so you'll be able to see the difference. And I hope today I will emanate a certain moment.
Like I had a very...
I'll trust you to edit out things that you would not want the world to hear about.
You came in here, you're a person, there's a friend of mine I'm perfectly comfortable with, and as soon as you turned on that camera, I felt that I was being surveyed, and I felt that I was, that the information that I was going to release was could somehow be used against me or something like that. I mean, that's paranoia. And for the first few minutes that we were sitting in front of this conversation, I was talking in front of this camera, I was hyperventilating, in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Well, Timmels, I'm gonna stop the tape a second.
Excuse me?
I'm gonna stop the tape a second.
Okay.
I think if it wasn't for the visual arts, or if it wasn't for video or film, the visual arts would be more accessible to more people.
And video is not reality. This is He's my lover.
Yeah?
He's an actor. That's a list of movies he's been in. I like to watch his scenes.
Mm-hmm. So he's
He's my lover. I'm in love.
What about him?
You don't believe me?
I didn't say that.
We work at the same place. Hotel. That's his day job.
And he does his acting at night?
And days off. Sometimes he calls in sick.
He sounds dedicated.
He is.
But he's just an extra.
What do you mean?
Well, he may be in these movies, but he doesn't have a speaking part. He doesn't talk in them.
He's on screen. There is nothing special about words.
When I'm feeling in trouble.
No, I think that art, much like making specters out of political figures, is something that's often viewed as making change by smaller or more regionalized groups of people who need to sort of who've been brought up in some sort of environment where they need to feel like what they're doing is a direct and concrete method of expressing themselves in the sense that it is going to change something. And I don't think that that's a realistic goal. And I think that you need to be able to feel like you can change your own life and how your life works and understand more about your life. And then things will happen because of that. But to view it in a totalizing sense, something that has possibility of changing things, I see it as more of an example of an idea. I tend not to believe in sort of individual events being significant.
At the risk of sounding really materialistic, I would really like to have money, a lot of money. I don't know, people say that you can't buy happiness with money, but you can. You can buy happiness with money. Happiness for me is being able to travel around and go to lots of different places and cultures and stuff, and you can do that with money.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would love to have a lot of money, and but some sick part of me feels that I really deserve it.
I always say to people that Hampshire politics, Hampshire elections, is that this is the last time in our lives probably that our votes will count for anything, that what we say will be listened to, and that we actually have a chance if we run for an office to get elected. And it really bothers me when people don't run or don't do things.
In general, the larger lesson for me was, to live without hope, whether it be, for a scrap of bread tomorrow, or for a job, or to meet someone, or for whatever. I mean, I really think I have at least a slightly better understanding of why people who are really oppressed, in general, like, societally, and who are generally probably live without hope for a long, long time, are capable of doing about anything. And it's a little clear to me now, because without hope, what's there to pull you into tomorrow? Why even be here?
I don't think what anybody does really is worthwhile.
Why not?
Well, I don't think I've ever worked an honest day in my life. I consider important work like fishing or farming fields, or like making things, sewing, weaving. This is like an honest day's work. This is like worthwhile things to do.
Yeah.
The kinds of things that you and I do are just silly. They're like we're scroungers. We're like these people on the fringe of society who I don't know, like think about thinking and stuff like that. Of course it's not worthwhile.
Non, non, non! C'est fou. Ce n'était pas de force. Souvenez-vous, pendant des jours et des jours, chaque nuit, toutes les chambres se ressemblent. Et cette chambre-là, pour moi, elle ressemblait à aucune autre. Plus de porte, plus de couloir, plus d'hôtel, plus de jardin. Il n'y avait plus même de jardin.
Fucked me up for a while, as far as
Oh, down, Daddy.
There's an unfortunate thing about human relationships, which is that they're based largely on two things: space and time.
Yes.
And it's a very unfortunate thing for us to realize that a lot of who we're close to and who we're not close to has to do with who we're near and how long we're near to them. And as thoughtful, philosophic, often very idealistic and poetic animals, we want to believe that somehow there's more to it, that somehow we can see a beautiful thing or see an important thing in our lives and connect to it and be there and be loyal and be true and have some kind of a through line to where we are and where we want to be. And the reality is that's not really true. You know, that we can't, we're not very often able to be there because our desires change, not only from year to year or from one age to another, but weekly and daily. And that's unfortunate. That's a realization that's tough. And I think that you've made that realization. And I think that I haven't. And I'm struggling through making that realization. And I'm still very sentimental and very nostalgic. And you've kind of been able to survive.
And I remember seeing Christy there and then being really, really attracted to Sarah and going home that weekend and wondering why I was going home when I really wanted to stay there and hang out with Sarah. And then I remember the whole Sarah thing, which really fucked me up for a while as far as just playing with my head. And then I remember getting really drunk one night in the Merrill House rec room on Bass Ale, and you and me and John Kitson, well actually I remember first of all John Kitson taking me up to his room and giving me one of his suit jackets and trying to get me all decked out or something, and then the three of us going over to the tavern and you and John running interference and trying to like get me to run into these women. And then there's that strange woman who lined you, me, John, and Tim Kendall up against the tree and wanted to look at our butts and then said if she was a woman she would fuck any one of us. And I remember that. And then I remember going home and getting hooked up with Kathy Washburn, which wasn't a mistake but should have ended when when Jantarn was over, but it didn't. And so that carried me through the rest of that year.
Well, there was our little involvement very briefly, but that was so brief that it's hard to. It was significant and intense for I don't know, maybe it was a week, maybe not even. It was a weekend.
Yeah, really.
You know, so it was like nothing.
How does that stand out or seen now?
Mostly insignificant.
Okay.
I think it was a. I wouldn't say an aberration because that's negative because I don't think it got to that point, but it was just like a glitch almost. It's it was an experiment.
Yeah.
And we both realized that's not what was happening.
Getting you out of their lives is easy. They just stop talking to you. Getting you out of their systems is a different story. I think that amongst you're a very hard person to forget because you're so unique. If for some reason I never talk to you again after this because I go somewhere and lose touch with you or whatever, I would never forget you. You'd still be one of those people I'd I think about a lot. But you would be out of my life, as opposed to out of your system.
But I just want a definition, you know. It's like, if this is just going to be a casual thing that, you know, you come over every Friday night and we fuck like rabbits for one night, and then, you know, the rest of the week we go about our business, and if we meet somebody else, that's great, but for that one night a week, we have our little thing. You know, if that's what he wants, fine. Just let me know what you want. But, you know, it's like, I can totally see in 2 months something will happen, we'll mess around again, and then it'll go on. But and I guess that's what I was looking for in you, and you couldn't give that to me, and maybe I had a hard time saying, hey Tim, it doesn't matter what you want, just let me know what you want, you know, so I can accept that and deal with it and, you know, work around that.
I'll tell you this. I'm not as turned on by relationships as much as I am turned on by what I can achieve. And so talking about relationships is okay to me, but it's not as exciting as me kind of dreaming about what I can accomplish. And so most of my attention goes in that respect. And I like my friends, I like to hang out, I like to help them when I can. And I'm more attuned to what I can do and recognition for that.
Well, it's more difficult. It's harder here, and it's you know, you're not going to class with people. Really, you're not living in a dormitory with people or eating in a dining commons with people. You know, with the people that you live with who are, you know, the same age as you and have a lot of the same qualities that you do and appreciate your qualities, and, you know, the people you have a lot in common with and that you really like being with. And
oh God, hell, it was an awful time in my life. Just because, well, see, things happen between you and I, and to get back to that for a minute, I mean, it was something that I really was interested in, and Matthew was supposed to be pretty much out of the picture in a way, but it was a really fucked up thing. But anyway, it was a time in my life where I think I was letting events control what was going on instead of letting me control what was going on. And so, you know, like, I didn't feel like I had the control to, like, go back and have something different with you, or even maybe have a friendship with you, or anything, you know. And to let's see, this is right. Let's see, I remember you being in my room, and it was like maybe around midnight.
This is really weird, Tim. Sorry, this is really weird. Like,
you know, it's amazing how a friendship can really change the direction of your life. You know, and maybe it's all kind of, I don't know, maybe you draw people to you that will do that for you or bring you in the direction that you're looking or whatever, but I think that, you know, knowing you has changed my life. And, well, allowed me to really feel better about myself and feel fun, you know, enthusiastic. The things I want to be, but you help me to feel that, so.
Great. I think there are 3 levels of keeping track of people. People that you know you were close with, you wonder about, but you know you're never going to keep track of. But it'd be nice to hear what's going on with them. People who you consciously keep track of, you know, a letter every few months, always knowing where the person is, and then very close friends who you know, go out and visit, you make a point to go and see.
No, I agree.
So. I think we're kind of in the second category.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that takes a long time to develop. I mean, you think I've been here all my life, and you know, so you build on it, you know, and like right now I have a few friends, but you know, that's only after 4 months, you know. Of course, it's only going to be a few, you know, but you know, you make your good friends, you discard the people that don't mean much to you or you don't mean much to them, and you move on. And then you know, you meet 20 people, you stay good friends with like 1 or 2. You meet another 20 people and you stay good friends with 1 or 2, and you just build up, and eventually you build a network of people that you really like. But it all takes time. I mean, this is, you know, 22 years of building that I have. You know, some of these are new friends, some of these are old friends. You know, and it just, you build on it.
I mean, I met Barb, who's in my bathroom right now, passed out. She was the manager of the restaurant that I worked at, and she was just selling the restaurant. And we just hit it off. I mean, we just hit it off. We just started joking around, and she's very creative, and I don't know, you know, it's like a chemistry or something.
I would have to say that she's probably the person who I have the most honest and open relationship with of anyone at this moment. I'm able to talk to her about things that I can't begin to bring up with other people, and she affirms a lot of things for me that I wonder about. She definitely makes me feel like a worthwhile person when I'm feeling in trouble. It's a very important relationship to me, definitely.
What I did that semester, I'm not proud of. And I don't think it's anything. It's nothing that I can turn back. I mean, it's things that I may regret, but that I don't dwell on, because I can't do anything about it. I mean, it's done. I might as well close the book and move on and deal with the repercussions from that. But I don't like to think about it. I don't like to think about what happened. I don't like to think about the fact that, like, there were some people who were allowed into my life and some people who weren't, and the way I treated people and the whole way it played out. I just don't like to talk about it. And I felt that some of that was that I didn't let you into my life enough. You know, I didn't let you into my life more, and that you were just playing out some of that frustration in that journal entry, and I didn't appreciate it.
I would say that every male friend I have, there's been sexual tension between them, either, but it isn't always acted upon, you know, because it would, in some ways it would mess up a relationship, and in others it just wasn't necessary.
Only since there's this, you know, homophobia sort of thing, that, you know, if you have a really close friend that's a male, you know, are they wondering, well, you know, it's that same thing, because it's really just this attraction to them. And are you thinking, well, is this a homosexual attraction, or is it just a friendly attraction, which is okay? You know, everything's all right with a friendly attraction, but when it gets too friendly, you know. And so, you know, men aren't gonna touch each other because, hey, I'm not a homosexual, you know. And so, when it's, I guess the best friends are ones that don't, you know, you don't worry about it. You just.
I see that you and I will continue to write letters to each other, but that it is very possible that after I graduate from the school that I'll never see you again in person. There isn't there is never really a distance between the two of us. There isn't that kind of like a reunion uncomfortableness, you know. I mean, there isn't a moment that we see each other where we have to feel like we have to be superficial at any point. It's always as if, no matter how much time we were to spend apart, that the day that we see each other again, it's as though we were never apart at all. And those are the best relationships, I think.
Because as much chemistry as that's there between us, it may brink just on the line of being sexual, but it doesn't pass that. It does not pass that point. And I don't know. I don't know how much that you can agree with that, but that's the way I felt, and I assume that that's the way you saw that. You know, that the chemistry is certainly there.
You know what's happened, don't you?
Yes. Yes, I do.
I've fallen in love with you.
Yes, I know.
Tell me honestly, please tell me honestly if what I believe is true.
What do you believe?
That it's the same with you. That you've fallen in love too.
Sounds so silly.
Why?
I know you so little.
It is true though, isn't it?
Yes, it's true.
Laura.
No, please. We must be sensible. Please help me to be sensible. We mustn't behave like this. We must forget that we've said what we've said.
Not yet, not quite yet.
But we must, don't you see?
Listen. It's too late now to be as sensible as all that. It's too late to forget what we said. And anyway, whether we'd said it or not couldn't have mattered. We know. We've both of us known for a long time.
How can you say that? I've only known you for 4 weeks. We only talked the first time last Thursday week.
Last Thursday week. Has it been a long time for you since then? Answer me truly.
Yes.
How often did you decide that you were never going to see me again?
Several times a day.
So did I. I love you. I love your wide eyes, the way you smile, and your shyness, and the way you laugh at my jokes.
Please don't.
I love you. I love you. You love me too. It's no use pretending it hasn't happened, because it has.
Yes, it has. I don't want to pretend anything either to you or to anyone else. But from now on, I shall have to. That's what's wrong, don't you see? That's what spoils everything. That's why we must stop here and now talking like this. We're neither of us free to love each other. There's too much in the way. There's still time. If we control ourselves, behave like sensible human beings, there's still time.
Most of my male friends I've dated at one time in my life. Not all of them, but most of them. Why? Maybe because it was just easier. I don't know.
It's easier to date them.
It was easier to date them than to deal with them. I don't know.
I mean, there's something very significant also about being close to you, and being friends with you, and not being attracted to you.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something. It's happened a few times in my life, but I mean, the standard for me is to become emotionally tied with other men who are heterosexual men and fall in love with them. It happens all the time, and that didn't transpire with you in regard to me. I mean, I didn't feel, I never felt like there was a tension there, and that creates an environment of comfortableness, especially in the way that you react to me and the way that you treat me as an equal in every way. You know, it makes me feel accepted and valuable and that kind of thing.
I think that for us, that is a big part of it. There's some kind of attraction, and I don't think it's necessary. I mean, I can't say that it's physical. I can't say that it's, but there's some kind of attraction that binds us, right? And we can target that, and we can say we like to spend a lot of time together.
I guess it's because I don't really know. It's hard for me to talk sometimes. And it's hard for me to explain where I'm coming from, and sometimes hard for me to even know where I'm coming from. And I think sometimes that how I feel and how I feel for a person, they will understand just by, like if I stare at them long enough, I can, they can figure out how I feel, or, I don't know, or I have it like written in invisible ink on my forehead or something, I don't know. But so I guess I'm afraid of that whole time just because I don't really know what kind of impression I left and how, I mean, like you said, I went through your notebooks. I mean, like, my God.
Number 1, the woman done wrong. Passed over by the other men, she's always the sweetest, most deserving woman ever. Often not very physically attractive, but distinctive looking. Let me take you away and love you the way I wish I had been loved. That's my quote beneath that. Okay, number 2, the punk rock girl. Actually a subset of the woman done wrong. She has some kind of silly hair, and she doesn't get the attention of the boys, and all she really needs is the love of a good man. Of course, all she really wants is to obsess over the rebel with the boots and the earring. Continued tomorrow. The next day I wrote, the spunky woman. Says surprising and funny things, seems very confident, puts down a lot of things and people. Being within her trust means passing some kind of test. A pseudo-bad girl. I wonder if she's like that in bed. What else did I put? Number 4, I got a little silly here. Number 4, women in powerful positions. Number 5, women with big tits. Just kidding. And that's as far as I got with that. I could probably go on that one for a while sometime. I should probably extend my list there.
And we were talking and you were analyzing, and I was just like, I wish he'd just shut up. I don't think I ever told you that. You were like, well, I don't know, what would be the implications, and what,
Right.
what would be the meaning in this, and why would we be doing this? And I'm like, I don't care.
What did you want to do?
I just wanted to see what would happen. And I wasn't all that concerned with what the implications were going to be at that minute.
Yeah.
The letter? Yeah. That was interesting that you offered me advice on that. It was good advice, actually. I mean, I still didn't bag David Barbie or whatever, but I mean, at some time, I can't remember. I decided to share the letter with you to see what your impressions of it were, and you were like changing all these things, not changing, but making all these suggestions, which were things which should have been obvious. I mean, I was very much writing this letter, trying to attract someone, trying to ask, just simply to say, because I was too afraid to approach the guy, simply to say, I think you're attractive, I'm a little shy about approaching you, maybe this letter, I just want to say, we'd like to meet you, or get together, whatever. But the letter wasn't, that's not what the letter said in its initial draft. I mean, the letter in its initial draft was this, like, huge apology. It was like, I covet you, stuff like that. And you're like very helpful and not critical, but just trying to say, I understand that these things are important for you to say, but if you really want to make this guy interested in you, you're gonna have to, take some of this stuff out and just say, you're attractive. Would you like to meet me? And that's all. You don't have to, you don't have to make these grand excuses for being attracted to the guy. And that's something that I would never do now. I would first of all, I would never do that letter now. And if I did, if I felt compelled to be, as I had to write a note to somebody, trying to get their attention, it would be written much differently now. And that has partially to do with being able to share those feelings with you, and you saying, not delegitimating the feelings, but saying this is not the way that you have to. You don't have to feel sorry for all of these feelings that you have. You don't have to feel guilty that you're attracted to someone just because
just because you're gay. You know.
I'm sure that it's what you want to do.
Just feeling like sort of an intensity and a closeness, even when we were talking on the phone. You know, that and also I guess, I mean, one thing that tends to stand out about the relationship in general, that stands out about Christmas Break is that, you know, that is sex, you know. It's sort of, I don't know, I always, here's me getting flustered.
Well, how do you mean?
Well, just that, you know, I remember having sex. I remember that sex was always really, you know, really intense and a really big part of, you know, of the relationship, I guess, is what we, you know, what we tended to do.
I think that I had a relationship with a guy that lives in California for coming up to be 4 years, and I still love him to this day. And we did have a sexual relationship. This was before I thought about all this, and I felt very close to him, even though he was 3,000 miles away, because I knew every inch of his body, and no one else did, except for me. And he knew every inch of my body. So, yeah, I think that it's very comforting.
Losing my virginity. That's what I remember.
Really?
Yeah.
How do you remember that?
How do I remember that?
How would you?
Kind of a confusion.
How would you like tell that to like one of your best friends or one of your new best friends or something?
Well, and I've told it before. I've always believed very strongly that you don't sleep with someone because they want you to sleep with them, and you don't sleep with someone until you're damn sure that it's what you want to do. So, you know, I've certainly been thinking about it prior to that point, and it just never, like, I was like, no, I can't. You know, that's how I felt in high school. I was like, no, not ready yet, I can't do it. And I knew it would be very important for my own mental health to be at the point where I could deal. Well, during that, I don't know if it was during that week or it must have been a gradual process, but I just remember thinking that week, well, it's time. Duh.
It's also strange because it's rare that I will get involved in something like that and not talk about it with the person. You know, I've always, anytime there's been some kind of encounter like that with a friend, it's always processed. And this was really unique. It was unique that there was an encounter and then nothing. We didn't talk about this just until like last year.
Oh yeah, your 4th year.
And this happened in my 1st year. That's a long time for me. So
why do you think
strange.
that was?
You know, I'm thinking about it as I'm saying it, and I just think that it was maybe because it was such an unexpected thing, and it was obvious that it wasn't going to go anywhere, and I wasn't quite sure what there was to process.
If you weren't following church, do you think that you would fool around? Do you think?
Oh shit, yeah. Oh yeah. All the time, man. There'd be no. I mean, AIDS might be a little scary to me, but that wouldn't stop me from having a good time. But my goal is not to have a good time. If my goal was to have a good time, I would have a good time definitely. But since it's not, I don't. Not that I'm saying that it's gloom and doom when I do it all. Not that at all. But it's there's more for me to live for than just having pleasure at the moment. You know. Now that's true. You know, say I'm serious about God.
So the only thing keeping you from a life of kickback hedonism and pleasure is your belief in God, is your faith.
Yeah.
I think that I've been trying to flee from sexuality for a long time. You know, I mean, I'm working on my Division 2 right now, and it's all about sex. And frankly, it's a little embarrassing, you know. And I wish that I could write scripts about something besides sex. You know, I wish that I could make a movie that didn't have these overtones of, you know, of rape and dominance and desire, you know. But that's what I'm going through right now, and I'm happy to have a relationship with someone that doesn't explicitly involve this kind of, you know, soul searching and, you know, all this stuff about sexuality. Who do I desire and all this.
Right.
So Tim, I don't really desire that. I frankly I like having the relationship I have with you. I think it's very fun. I think we have a good time talking.
So that's one reason is I think.
Nej. Jag tror jag vet nu. Vi vill inte vara beroende av någon annan. När två människor älskar varandra är det inte på samma sätt. Det är alltid en som är stark och en som är svagare. Och en svagare är alltid den som älskar utan beräkning, utan förbehåll.
This is really funny. I was thinking, first I thought like mutually exclusive, which is what I meant, and then I was thinking of the word for that, which is monogamous, but I thought monotonous first. No, I don't want a monotonous relationship though. One where I really want to learn how to trust someone and be really close to someone, you know, and I want to learn to give and receive equally, and have a lot of fun with someone who's going to be like really serious about the relationship and really want to like, you know, pay attention to me and not, you know, and like really work at it also. So Griffin and I went for a walk and we just clicked, and 3 days into the relationship we were in love. You know, I love you, it's you, like focused and intense and like nothing I'd ever experienced before. So a week, you know, at the end of that week I had to move to Cambridge, and I did, and he flew me out to Chicago a couple of weeks into that, and we spent some time in Chicago, and still it was, you know, oh my God. And then my job didn't work out in Cambridge, and I moved home without his knowledge, and I went to Scott's house, and Scott called Griffin over, and Griffin didn't know that I was going to be there, and it was this unbelievable reunion, you know. And so I was home for the rest of the summer, and we basically were married that summer. He either stayed at my house, I stayed at his house. I got into a car accident and totaled my car, so he would drive me to work every day. You know, and he'd come pick me up at the end of the day. You know, what time should I pick you up, honey? Kind of stuff. It was unreal.
Suffice to say that she's one of my best friends, and she's now my fiance, and that has changed my life drastically. I mean, I don't know what I would be doing now if I wasn't involved with anyone else. I mean, I don't know how much different my life would be, but she has obviously given my life a direction that it did not previously have.
Well, I think, for one thing, I mean, for me personally, I spend more time with Gloria than I do with anyone else. And she knows me better than anyone else knows me. I feel I know her better than I know anyone else, or that anyone else knows her.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe I want to know her, and I want her to know me a little bit more. I don't know why.
I had a sort of an on-again, off-again relationship when I was young with an older man, and he was definitely the ideal man for me. His name was Bob, and he was so great. I mean, he had blonde curly hair, and he was really tall and slender, and he was beautiful, he was gorgeous. And a lot of my friends have told me, or asked me rather, if I thought that was a sexually abusive relationship, because he was so much older than me. And he and I came very close to sleeping with each other once, but we didn't because he wanted to, but I didn't want to because he was married, and I didn't want to do that because I didn't think it was right. But he really wanted to, and I said no. And he said fine. You know, it took him a while to come around, but it was he said fine after that. But he was just totally ideal, and I don't think that that was a sexually abusive relationship, because again, I wasn't saying no, I was saying fine, do whatever you want, you know. Again, I would have considered it sexually abusive if he had done what I hadn't wanted him to do, but I was totally willing. But it's interesting how a couple of my friends have remarked on that as being sexually abusive relationship.
And also that it's the ultimate sort of friendship, you know. When you're young, you're looking for a friend that you could always, you know, just hang out with, count on them. And that's one of the most important things. It's feeling like you can count on them. It's not taking them for granted, but it's, you know, wanting them to be there and wanting them to want to be there.
As sort of caretaker and friend, someone who I can, you know, talk to, who comes to see me, who I feel close to. Someone I can yell at and scream at and cry and and just be with, who can be my friend, and who can be my lover. But that's not. I don't think that that's the most important part of our relationship. I mean the caring and the being cared for, I think, is more than anything, is what really helps me.
Well, this is not necessarily, I don't mean this in comparison to you, but different from the other male friends that I have now. He is, he's fascinated with me.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Do you like that?
I love that.
That's what I thought.
He constantly strokes me, you know. He constantly is interested in the tidbits of my life, the detail. Mm-hmm. He wants to know what I think all the time. He wants to share my things, you know. He's always telling people. He's always telling people that he introduces. He always introduces me to his friends as this is my. He says, "This is my friend Rick. He's a genius."
And you're not attracted to him.
I am attracted to him.
That's what I was gonna say.
I'm very attracted to him.
My God.
Yeah.
That must be like one of the epitomes of the attractable person for you.
I can safely say that I have never had a friendship like I have with Gene.
Mm-hmm.
And that is because in every way, Gene and I are lovers. Mm-hmm. We do everything together. We sit and have hours of silence together, you know? Mm-hmm. That's not uncomfortable silence. It's hours of just being next to each other. And it's like I would imagine a love affair to be with another man, except for the fact that we don't ever touch. We don't sleep together or anything like that. It's a purely emotional and intellectual relationship, no physical at all.
It's tied to the back of the ship and there's a mattress.
Why are there people like Frank? Why is there so much trouble in this world?
I don't know. I had a dream. In fact, it was the night I met you. in the dream, there was our world, and the world was dark because there weren't any robins, and the robins represented love. And for the longest time, there was just this darkness. And all of a sudden, thousands of robins were set free. And they flew down and brought this blinding light of love. And it seemed like that love would be the only thing that would make any difference. And it did. So I guess it means there is trouble till the robins come.
You're a neat girl.
So are you. You're a neat guy.
This is really weird, Tim. Sorry, this is really weird. Like,
I guess I was, let's see how I don't know how I would describe it, but I guess what I started going through or whatever was getting panic attacks, and that was that. I guess that started after a lot of other things that I was, a lot of stress I was having about what I wanted to do and what I wanted, what was really important to me, and about that same time I started having panic attacks and started feeling really out of control, and I think the fact, and I think at that point in time it was really good. you having had the same experience of in a different context, different way, but still sort of the same experience. It helped. I guess to be able to. To talk about that, or to have someone know what I was saying when I said I was, when I said things were out of control.
I think here I've known a lot of unstable people with fairly stable existences, and there I knew a lot of stable people with through unstable happenings. So I feel that during my time in Hampshire, very little that has been really memorable has happened to anyone that I know.
Oh, really?
Well, I've seen people go through meaningful things, but I think that there's no single happening that really has ever stood out to me too much.
It's really scary. Like the other day I was in one of my friend's houses with my mother. And we went down to the basement and he was showing us what he was doing, how he had renovated his basement. And there was all sorts of like razor blades, sharp knives, everything like on the walls and on the table. And I was looking at them, and my first instinct was to grab one of them and put it in my pocket and just like go home and not tell anybody and do something with it. But then like I even made the motion with my arm. I couldn't believe I was doing it. And then I just quickly went like that and went away and went up the stairs back with my parents and talked about other things and just forgot. I actually did forget about it. Whereas in the past, I would dwell on it and I would have suicidal thoughts that would just consume my every thought, my every action. And sometimes I would do things, I would carry out my suicidal impulses, and sometimes I wouldn't. And obviously I haven't, so.
I was depressed once for
5 or 6 years.
Yeah, it's a long time.
Yeah. But I got over that.
Did you ever really figure out why you were so depressed?
Sure.
I mean, remember you telling me the source of it, but did you ever figure out why it lasted for so long?
I'd say that it was just a continuing reinforcement of the reasons, of the fear that led me to depression.
Mm-hmm.
And in many ways, it was kind of a reinforcing kind of thing, because as the consequences of being depressed went along, it became harder and harder to get out of.
I don't know, if I didn't manage to be less depressed, I think that would be really awful. I worry about, after I graduate, about having to pay back loans and things like that, and I don't want to get stuck in a job that I hate, since I really usually hate working. And I'm afraid that I won't really find a focus that I really believe in or commit myself to.
I mean, I was dealing with a lot of different things as after me and Chris had broken up, and a lot of my friends and my support network at school were gone on leave, and a friend of the family died, and like a whole bunch of things happened all in a row, and then I was also challenged academically to a point that caused me to reflect a lot on my personal self and my relation to the world and different things that I was studying, and a lot of the things that I'd been brought up, like protesting and fighting against and all that kind of stuff that I'd grown up with, was all sort of brought to a head all at the same time. And I hadn't wanted my academics at all to interfere in my personal life, and I'd been using them almost to keep myself at a distance from other stuff I was thinking about. In a class that I took at UMass, a womanist feminist theory class, caused me to think a lot about it, and myself as a white person dealing with a lot of the racial issues that I've been dealing with my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
It made me think about it, and it all sort of came to a head, I guess, one weekend, and I completely freaked out and was sort of suicidal, except I wasn't really going to do anything, but I freaked myself out. And that just sort of went on from there, and then I recovered fairly quickly, but that was really bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
And I still don't quite understand what I went through, but I pulled it together a lot.
Well, that was the night that Jill Ramsey killed herself was the same night I finished my project, ironically enough. And I was coming back from the library, finishing the thing, the cut, and the first person I ran into was Ross. And I said, Ross, I just finished my Div 3, dude, and then he told me about, what had just happened, about Jill Ramsey. And a lot of people living on that hall, the B2 Long Hall, were friends of Jill's. And obviously they were quite upset when they heard, about what had happened. And I just recalled it, it was kind of a helpless type of feeling, in that there wasn't much that I as a Sam could do at that point, except, just try to be with them, and but obviously in the physical sense there wasn't anything I could do.
Yeah.
And that was a weird feeling, and yeah, that was quite a week.
In myself and my own personality, I realize there are a lot of things I wish had won out of life, and I myself have often hemmed and hawed and not gone and done anything about them, and I've often wished in my own life that there was somebody there to say, get off your fucking ass and go do this, and kind of be a push me into some things and let me have a good time. So I think I've done that to other people throughout my life, and recently taken my own advice in the ad and trying to change my own life around, and succeeded so far. So yeah, I've always tried to. some influence, and to push everyone's, because everyone should have their limitations pushed. I mean, there's no fun in life if you set a certain goal for a limitation for yourself and you never try to exceed that. It's when you push yourself farther, it's when you push your outside envelope of performance and you move outward that life has more meaning and becomes more dynamic and more exciting, because then everything is new and everything is different and everything is constantly changing. But if it's always the same, then what is there to it? If everything is always planned, it's the spontaneous and unplanned, which is always the more thrilling and memorable. So I've always tried to do that. I sure haven't done it enough, but I'm trying to make up for a few lost years now.
And I've been on lots of cruises in my life.
All of our friends seem to be obsessed over something or someone, generally someone, and it's something that you've brought up before about how most people have some sort of key figure in their life or some sort of turning point or someone who they project a lot onto and can't seem to forget about and think about a lot and overanalyze their brief relationship with this person, or obsess over the fact that they can't get a relationship with this person. And we were discussing how fucked up all of our friends are, how they all have something that they do this with. And
down, Daddy.
It's immediate gratification. I mean, a lot more immediate than any other art form, I think, or any other service that you provide for people. A lot of times, like on the job that I was working before, it's like you write a report and you don't get the gratification of doing this report until months and months and months down the road. And you get gratification within something you make within a week, Nothing takes more than a week to make. Well, no, maybe not. I guess prosciutto takes a year. But I don't think I'll ever be making prosciutto.
Wow.
But, it's like you make a dinner and people eat it that night. Mm-hmm. And you get instantaneous gratification. They say, oh my God, this was wonderful. And you know how it turns out. You don't have to wait forever and ever to find out how things turn out.
Everyone eats food.
Everybody eats food, and it's a common ground. People understand it,
Let's see. Okay, recently I got really frustrated. Well, it was about a month ago. I got really frustrated because there was this guy that I was attracted to. And I didn't know if he was attracted to me. This is very petty, actually. So I got upset and frustrated because I was pretty used to, like, if a man was obviously attracted to me, I'm used to that. And so I just went out and got smashed that night. I came home, I'm like, Amy, I'm having a bad day. Let's go out.
Right? Yeah. Hanging out with that. Yeah.
Drinking, it's just how everybody meets. I mean, what the hell do you go out and do? You drink. And it's no fun if everybody's drinking and you're not. You feel like left out in a way. You're 2 speeds behind everyone else. And I don't need alcohol to meet people, and I don't need alcohol to feel comfortable with people. In fact, I'm much more comfortable around people the less I drink. I don't really buy into that, drinking helps me open up. That to me it just shuts you off from people, because then things happen when you're drinking, then you see them sober. Let's say like Dave, my friend Dave, let's say we're drinking and then he says something or we do something and then we're not drinking. How did that make you less inhibited? In fact, it only inhibited things more because they happened when you were drinking.
Yeah.
And so you don't know when you're sober how things are.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really, in that way, I don't like drinking. I think it fouls things up more than it makes things easier.
I can get high on sugar, caffeine, nicotine, anything legal, no problem. I think that's partially due to the fact that I, either A, drank and ate so much of those kind of things before, and now I don't have any. So then that makes it worse. You know what I mean? So only a little bit can set me off. And I'm addicted to film because all my friends have graduated. Life is really boring, so that's what I do. You know what I mean? You live through film. It's much easier that way. So I don't think there are common things that bind maybe my addiction to I don't really think I have an addiction to chocolate necessarily. It doesn't affect me. It doesn't do anything to me. Not the way sugar and caffeine do. So I don't think that's a bad thing. In fact, that like makes me more settled.
His nostrils were filled with the smell of things growing and dying. A sweet, earthy smell, like the valleys of rainforests. He did not wish to return to his body, and instead, he spread himself thinner and thinner. And when he'd made himself as thin as a gas, he sighed. And the trees, those tough-barked giants exchanging one gas for another, pumping water, making food, were not too busy to take this sigh back through their leaves. He was Harry Joy. He was our father. He told stories, and he planted trees.
Very important relationship to me. It's a big difference.
Well, we drove to Great Barrington, Connecticut, and saw Mirror in a barn. It was Zach Woods, and I think Christian was with us also. That was certainly an aesthetic moment. Was that your first Tarkovsky? You probably saw Sacrifice before that.
I had sung Sacrifice.
Okay, that was my first Tarkovsky moment, and well worth it. I mean, that was a very Tarkovsky-esque scene for us to walk into this barn in the middle of a movie, and sit down and see, this pitcher of milk shattering on the floor, and there was something. Oh, I can remember the train. There was that. We walked out and we were all talking about the film. And remember the train at the beginning of the movie? And we were like, yeah, I remember that. And there was no train in the movie. It was, the sound of the train in the movie, but the train was outside the barn. It was, it was this, like this kind of like contextual experience of, like the reality of the barn and these weird people in this weird theater with a train passing by, and we all decided it was part of the movie, but it was not part of the movie at all.
And I think when you make a film, you're responsible for, and this is my interest, but I think that I'm responsible for presenting some sort of new or different way of looking at perspective and issues to do with aesthetics, art, and subject. And I think if you're going to work in a medium, you have to be working on all of those levels.
My weakness is, I know what the movies I want to make. I feel a real passion to do that. I have very few clues about once they're made, or or getting money to have them made, like in distribution, or who, It's just like I want to make them and tell these stories if there is a story there, and if it sits on a shelf for 10 years after that, so what? But so that's sort of a weakness. But so I want to make these films.
My high school boyfriend is the one that really got me. Well, I was always interested in film, but he was the first person that I started going to see foreign films with, and that was a big influence on me.
How did that have an impression on you?
Well, it was, away from the whole Hollywood genre and away from the Saturday afternoon horror flicks, so it was something completely new.
Did that make you want to study film? Or
it just made me really interested in film and to see another perspective.
Ruth Bradley told me, she said, I've never seen a student film make any significant amount of money. And that inspired me when she said that. And I think I have some ideas that I think can make me a few $1,000s. I don't intend to get rich. I don't care about getting rich. But in terms of like to make some money, do a certain number of things, and excuse me, and so that would be a big thing. My films are geared towards two things: doing what I want to do and relating that vision or whatever to a number of folks that would not normally have gone for that until I treated the material and did what I want. So that would be a significant change. I intend to see if I can strike out with some success. And my two films I've done so far, I don't think are that. They're not successful. They're not big anything. But they're definitely films I wanted to do, and I'm happy with them. By the same token, I want to move on from there. And so in answer to your question, that is very much what I'm after in terms of how successful can I be. And of course, with my personal relationship with Jesus, that has an entire framework. I mean, that is the goal of my life. So, but that deals with another topic.
That's always been my main viewpoint, is that I don't feel like I'm locked into anything. I feel like I can do anything I want. And you know, if I don't make it in filmmaking, which is really is sort of unfathomable to me, then I can do anything else. You know?
Yeah.
And it's just how long am I willing to go before I come to the point that says I'm not making it, or I'm not going to make it, or I haven't made it, or I failed. I don't know. I'm really too patient to fail, I guess.
Well, he's in Gillette, and I guess maybe he's feeling kind of guilty, and he's like, well, give me a call sometime. And I'm like, maybe. He's like, if you want to. And I'm like, if I want to. And I turned my back on him and walked into the dining room. It was one of those dramatic moments in life that you kind of have like a cinematographer to capture.
Okay, that's one thing about you that kind of bothered me sometimes. Not you know, where it annoyed me, but I always wondered if it would become a destructive factor sometime, is that you tend to take your film theory criticism, your approach to how you criticize film and how you look at how it works and what's not working, you tend to apply that to people and your friends around you sometimes, I think.
How so?
How so? Just that you tend to take every little piece apart and, you know, and ask, okay, why is he really doing this? What is this going to cause? What is this going to create in terms of a reaction? You know, who's in the right? Who's in the wrong? You know, is this morally correct? Is it politically correct? You know, however you approach your film theory by kind of taking pieces of the deeper meanings, you know, you tend to apply that to how you look at people, how you look at your friends, how you look at the world around you. Not to an extreme, I mean, where you lost sense of reality, but I always wondered if that was going to become, you know, sort of a destructive factor in how you approached people.
Right, because I've never met anyone who kept...
Look, in what I do, there are sometimes pressures. What the hell do you think that I do? Come on, come on. Come on, every morning I walk in for 5 months, say hi. What the hell do you think that I do?
You sell little fucking cars, that's what you do.
I wear $150 slacks. I wear silk shirts. I wear $800 suits. I wear a gold watch. I wear a perfect D, flawless, 3-carat ring. I change cars like other guys change their fucking shoes. I'm a thief. I've been in prison, all right?
So what? I don't care.
So what?
Don't tell me.
So what? I never even told my wife that.
I don't
Who is
care.
now gone. Did I ever come on to you?
No.
Well, you see?
See what?
See, I am a straight arrow. I am a true blue kind of a guy. I've been cool. I am now unmarried. So let's cut the mini moves and the bullshit and get on with this big romance.
What? I don't believe it. Do you think that I have been waiting for you to come along? What is this shit?
You think I'm kidding? I can tell. This is strictly on the up and up.
Jesus Christ.
And the truth is, if the truth be known, I didn't puke on Emily Dickinson's grave. But it was Emily Dickinson's cemetery. And from now on, if I ever tell anybody that story again, I'll always say it was Emily. I'll always exaggerate and say it was Emily Dickinson's grave because it was darn close.
Oh, do you know what else I remember? You came into my room one night. I was sleeping, and you came and you sat in the dark in the chair next to my bed for a couple of minutes, and then you left. Do you remember that at all? Because I remember like waking up for a second as you were walking out the door. You don't remember that at all, do you?
No.
It was around that time.
No, I don't want to talk about this anymore.
All right.
This has brought up issues that I hadn't considered.
Because I didn't want to talk about it. Because of all the fears that made me so crazy my senior year are still there. What if people find out?
What if they find out?
What if you don't edit this out? And what if like they watch it and
What if people find out what?
You're evil, you know that?
Recently, because actually weird because, you know, I keep mentioning about, you know, trying like this therapy through this problem that I had. And I never told Sarah what it was.
What the problem was?
Yeah, which is kind of weird because she's my best friend and I tell her anything else in the world. But I just didn't tell her this. And she still doesn't know.
Does she want to know?
Well, I didn't tell her that there was a problem. I just told her that I didn't know, you know, why I'm feeling this way and whatever. And,
But you know there's a specific
But I know specifically what it is. Yeah, I found it very comforting to talk to someone that was from a total non-objective viewpoint. I didn't want to disappoint Sarah. That's my biggest fear, is disappointing people.
And you thought that by telling her
That she'd that she'd be disappointed in me, and that, because I think she thinks that, I think that she thinks this way, I think my family thinks this way, about every person that meets me thinks this way, that I'm this strong-minded, I know what I'm doing, know where I'm going. How can you have a problem? You've got everything going for you. And if I do have a problem, then it's like a disappointment to them.
Because I felt it was something that you had pushed us to.
You did?
Yeah.
Ow.
I don't know, I felt that you were the one who egged us into it. It was one of those experience things. It was one of those, you know, like, it wouldn't, yeah. I thought, oh, yeah, that's what I thought. I thought it was you saying, here's someone from your first year, here's a way in which you can resolve this. It's staring you in the face. Just go for it. Do it. Resolve it now while you can. Experience life to its fullest. I mean, that's what you were saying to me, right? So I felt it was you.
Okay. I shouldn't be laughing. It's actually really horrible. But he was working for Domino's Pizza in Providence, and he was 16 or so, and he had a delivery at this really seedy part of town. I don't know where, but there are some seedy parts of town, and this was where his delivery was. And evidently, I wasn't there or anything, but I heard from my dad, my stepfather, that he went up to the door and there was nobody there, and he knocked and there was nobody there, and he tried some windows and nobody was there. So he just gave up and went back to his car, and the people that were there were waiting for him behind his car, and he watched him put the pizza back in his car, and as he was getting ready to get into his car, they jumped him and they beat him up, and one of the kids punched the back of his head really hard, like so hard that evidently his eyeball fell out.
his eyeball fell out.
His entire eye.
Came out of his head.
Yes.
And then what did he do?
Oh God, this is a true story, I swear. Well, he picked it up off the street and back in his eye like that.
You put it back into his skull.
Yeah, he did.
His eyeball popped out of his head, fell on the street. He picked it up on the street and put it back in his head.
Right.
Could he see then? Was he okay?
He was fine.
He was fine.
Certain moment. I don't think.
Since she was 12, she'd always been involved with people, and I don't think there was ever a significant period of her life after the age of 12 where she wasn't involved with someone. And so she seemed to define herself in terms of who she was with. And with me, that didn't work, because I had my own definite ideas of what I wanted to do, and she couldn't fit into that. And I mean, I couldn't give her what she wanted either.
I think part of the impetus was that I felt like I was losing part of my identity, and I only now see why I felt that way. Looking back, I think when you embark in a relationship or whatever, there's always that factor of changing or altering sort of a little bit because of being with this person and wanting to be with them and so forth. I think there's some degree of that naturally, even just in a friendship.
I just learned, I mean, it's true, the older you get, the things you get older and you look back and you say, how on earth how could I ever conceive of doing something that I did 2 years ago? And that is how I mean, I was taking a walk with my friend Jill the other day. I'm like, do you realize, 2 years ago, last year, I probably I can't even fathom doing things now that I would have done in the past. And I think you just learn.
The thing is about all this is that, something that I've learned is that all the answers you're getting are pretty much like things that I've already thought through. I can give pretty easy answers to in a way. And it's all like my sort of analytical, detached self. So I don't know what you wanted. The thing, it takes a lot for me to do more than that. Well, to say things and feel them at the same time. So I don't say things with much emotion involved usually unless I'm with my therapist. So it was hard even there. Which is why I guess there's some things that I didn't want to explore anymore right now.
Yeah, I think that the job in a lot of ways has, it's been like an incredible growing experience for me. In the sense of like realizing, there was no way that I could relate to that situation in any way. And I hope that I never will have to, but I don't think I will. And that was really difficult for me because I think that most situations that I'm tested on or that people talk to me about, I can relate to in some sense. Mm-hmm. And those caused me to reflect a lot about myself and different things that I've done in my life that are similar or not, and I tend to draw on them when I'm talking to people. Mm-hmm. And this one was just so weird that I had no clue. It was very difficult to console somebody who I couldn't understand what they were going through.
That's when I was trying to bake chocolate chip cookies, and I only had a little bit of dough left, enough for 3 more cookies, and you came upstairs from your room in the basement, and you would not permit me to bake the rest of the cookies because you insisted that the amount of money that went into the ingredients for those 3 cookies was not worth what it would cost to bake the cookies for 12 minutes. Uh-huh. And at that point I started screaming and Rick woke up.
I've always wanted to become a player.
Why haven't you worked toward that?
Well, I realized, when I was, I guess I really realized when I was about 17 or 18 that I would never become a major league player, even though all my life I had said that I would be. It had been my goal. I'd be a shortstop for the Phillies. But I don't have the physical capabilities.
That's the main limitation you feel?
Sure. I'm not fast. I'm not strong. I can't throw hard, and I can't run. I can't hit hard.
And you can't do enough to correct those dilemmas to get in.
Mm-mm. And not at the age of 21.
Yeah.
I've decided that I don't care if I'm happy as long as I can do something great and be powerful, and maybe create a little something that will live after me after I die. And that's greedy, That's a desirous, egotistical.
Yes.
And I don't see that you really have that.
Do you like the way you live, though?
Could be better.
How would you change it?
Well, I think that I'd like to have more money. Just so I wouldn't have to worry about it all the time, and I can do things that I wanted to do. I'd like to have close friends that I could sort of trust, that would be around for a while. I've never had close friends for a really long period of time. I've never had close friends for more than, say, 3 or 4 years in my life, which maybe is sufficient, but I'm a little worried that when I leave Hampshire, I'm not going to have any close friends. And that's one of the reasons. It's one of the reasons I want to keep on writing you letters, because I know when I leave Hampshire, you might be one of my few friends.
No. I'm not. I know I didn't want to have a baby. But on the other hand, it was like, I wanted to have it so bad that, you know, but I don't think I ever would have done that. I wouldn't do that to somebody.
But you thought about it?
Yeah, it occurred to me.
No, believe me, you need feel no regrets. It's always better to destroy than to create what is unessential. Besides, how many things are really important enough to survive? A bad film to Pace only means loss of money. But to you, it would signal the beginning of the end. You did the right thing. It's better to wash your hands of it and scatter salt over the battlefield as the ancients did to purify it. In these times, we need desperately to clean, to disinfect. We are being suffocated by words, by images, by sounds that have no reason to exist at all, that emerge from the void only to return to the void. Any man who is really worthy to be called an artist should swear to one oath in his creative life: dedication to silence. Do you remember Rimbaud's eulogy to a blank page?
Wait, Guido, wait.
A great artist. Do you know what
We're ready to
Rimbaud's
begin.
greatest
Good morning,
contribution to
senor.
poetry was? His renouncement of poetry, his departure
My best
for
wishes,
Africa.
Guido.
If I cannot have all, then nothing is the true perfection. Pardon me for this excess of examples and quotations, but we critics do what we do best. Our real mission is to sweep away the millions of abortions that are obscenely attempting to come to life. There was no need for you to leave this film behind you, like the deformed footprint of a crippled man. What a monstrous presumption to believe that others might profit by the squalid catalogue of your mistakes. And to yourself, what good would it do you to piece together the shreds of your life, your vague memories, the shadows of the ones you have never known how to love?
What is this sudden happiness that gives me new strength, new life?
I think really what I want is just to feel good about myself. And I think I've always known that I've had some degree of intelligence. I have something to say. I don't know what it is I have to say, but I think it's awfully sad that so many people, and it's so prevalent here, but so many people go through life without having anything to say. And even though I don't know what it is yet that I have to say, I think by being here, I'll realize what it is, and I will find the means to express it.
Well, I have difficulty verbalizing my ideas. I think that's a problem that most younger students, younger grad students have, because I'm the youngest one in our department, and most of them are in their 30s, and they've been doing this for 15 years already.
Yeah.
And when I go to verbalize my ideas, I just get killed. They kill me. And it gets you down, definitely. And you start to wonder, I'm spending all this time doing this stuff, but for what?
Yeah.
That's a constant question.
I love to go out. I love to have a good time. I mean, I'm just an all-out partier. It's the truth. I mean, I'm a very big partier. Probably the most memorable evenings of my life, where I did the most memorable things, are ones I truly cannot remember.
Well, because I think that, going back to the fun and adventurous part, I think you were one of the first people that believed that that was me and that was great, you know. I've had a lot of people kind of, I don't know, actually I shouldn't say that, but I'm not sure what people have liked in me before, but I thought that that was something you liked about me. Maybe I'm wrong. You could tell me.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I've been wrong for the last 5 years.
I mean, it's kind of like, the whole phone call has been a lot stranger than I thought, you know, just...
How so?
Well, I guess I never really expected to really think about our friendship, you know. Like, it's really good. It's really great that you ask those questions, but I guess, like, I never really, never really sat back and had, like, a grand overview, you know, or, you know, I never really sat down and put everything in perspective, you know.
At this point, it's a little hard for me to place exactly, you know, where I am right now. I'm looking for, I guess I'm still, some of the things that haven't changed about me, I guess I'm still looking for some higher purpose. Still feeling like there must be something else motivating, something, you know, some higher path, you know, as to what, you know, some right way of doing things, I guess. But I try at least now to be a little less crazed about not knowing what it is yet. It still frustrates me, but I'm a little bit less I don't know, can't think of the right word, but
the thing about when I was engaged was that was sort of a battle with me inside me, was because I really recognized at the time that it was a very good possibility and probably inevitable actually at a point that I would have to leave school probably at some point, because it wasn't just her and I, she had 2 children. So the sort of dilemma I came upon, you know, internally was, well, wow, I feel like I've been doing God's will the past 5 years or whatever, or trying to. Then now, is this His will for me to marry this person and like be a so-called provider or whatever? And then sort of out of necessity, sort of having to leave this behind for now, or maybe for good. Or by doing that, would I be sidetracking myself from what I'm really supposed to be doing? And that was a battle, you know. Like it's like it came to some point where I told myself, convinced myself, no, I'm supposed to marry this person and this and that. And then after we broke up, I was still unsure. I thought, wow, you know, was it the right thing, this and that? And it's only been, you know, like last couple months, I feel like, no, this is a track I was supposed to have been on all along.
While I was sitting there listening to her, you know, cry and be upset, nagging at the back of my mind, which I didn't admit until later, and I'll tell you, was, what the fuck, you know? Well, slap! You know, wake up, bitch! See the light, because she was being too, and I thought before this point, but she was obsessed with him and with she was no person without him somehow. She just didn't, everything revolved around Eric, and that drove me nuts.
I've never heard people when they're old and when they're later in life, you know, you go and ask them, so do you think you should have spent more time with your job? I've never heard anyone say yes to that. I think they really truly feel that their relationships and their family are more important in the end than their career. And I believe that in some ways. I want to put as much time in my career as I can because that's my expression, but you know, when I finally do find some sort of family,
I don't know. I want a busy, diverse life. I mean, that's something that's really important to me, and I get really bored doing one thing all the time, and I think that's one of the reasons why I could never have a 9-to-5 type of job, is that you're doing one thing, and I need to be doing, like if I'm doing food styling and reviewing and consulting of some form and some catering, and I think that that's what would make me the happiest, is doing a whole lot of things. Maybe, related to food, maybe not, maybe doing some social work or working in a soup kitchen and, doing consulting with a soup kitchen to get their menus cheap and good, or teaching them how to cook themselves, so that they could make the most out of their food. I think that's what would make me happy, and I think that's my ultimate goal, is to be doing like 4 or 5 different things.
The one thing I always try to impress upon people is that it's been said in other ways, such as you don't get mad, get even. But not that I believe in that. But if you're not getting what you want in life and you're unhappy, turn that anger, that pain outward, and try to use it to your advantage and goals. And if you're angry, or whatever, and you're upset, try to be upset in a constructive way. And take your lumps, and if you fuck up, say, I fucked up, and try to learn a lesson from it. And turn, through pain or whatever can come power, and you have to learn to channel that into.
Oh, down, Daddy.
And this is really weird, Tim. Sorry, this is really weird.
I don't think so. I'm looking at the future.
What that means, I